right? As always, never want to let it become cliche, but thanks to God. Let's call Jeremiah chapter 16, what? We can possibly subtitle it, why. God willing, both will be clear, or the why for both of those titles will be clear as we go through this chapter that starts out in verses 1 through 4 with God cautioning Jeremiah not to take a wife in this place. Why? Because it is about to get bad for both parent and child. Understanding that what is coming to Judah is a persecution, or really a judgment that is going to leave bodies strewn on the ground, metaphorically as dung, but not so metaphorically, but literally as food for the birds and for the wild beasts, as he goes on in verses 5 through 9. To say even worse, don't grieve for them, great or small. Don't gather or mourn for them, because God is silencing the joy in this nation that has become just that wicked. Verses 10 through 13, going on to cite a response from the people, stating, why is this happening and what have we done to earn this kind of response from God? To which God will reply, because of the deeds of your fathers. But he is not punishing them for the deeds of their fathers, but the way in which the deeds of their fathers may actually live on through them. Understanding that even though they may not worship the same idols, they have their own idols that are affecting their ways. And that is what God is citing as the basis for the coming judgment. Stating, therefore, I will hurl you out of this land to serve others, as we've seen in previous chapters, because they have chosen to serve false gods. He is going to involuntarily throw them into the service of those he is bringing to them for judgment. Stating in verses 14 through 15, as the Lord lives, who brought you out of the north, will become their new reputation. Understanding they were formerly known as the people who were brought out of the land of Egypt. Even though he is using this phrase to say that their captivity will not last forever, it seems that they will have a lingering shift in their reputation after the captivity, now known for the way in which they have misused their freedom once God established them as a nation. Going on in verses 16 through 18 to say that he is bringing many fishers and hunters, metaphorically describing the nations he is bringing against them to repay them double for their abominations. Verses 19 through 20, going on to talk about the way that they have traded the inheritance that God promised them for an inheritance of lies and worthless things, asking, can a man make for himself gods? Verse 21, concluding, this once I will make them know that the answer is no. The history of Israel at this time, even if not the chapter, making it clear that at least at this point, God is not going to compel them to acknowledge truth forever. Reminding me why I thought the title, What, was so appropriate. It's because they are asking God, what did we do wrong? As if God is going to punish them unjustly. For God, it's not a challenge to recall exactly what Israel did wrong at this point, but for people, it can be difficult to remember every individual wrong committed when wrong has become the habit, which can make questions like what in situations like this an effective means of evading the truth. Reminding me of a tactic I got a chance to see used not so infrequently, what's the word, but I don't know a better way of saying that, but used often enough in litigation, where a person put in the position of having to make an admission would sometimes bury that admission in a pile of information, very similar to what we see the people of Judah seeming to try to do to God here, burying the wrong that they were doing in a pile of wrongs that had stacked up over the course of the nation's history, which is similar to another tactic occasionally or not so occasionally used in litigation, and that is committing a series of acts, once caught for those acts, trying to plead down to a lesser offense, overwhelming the prosecution with so many crimes that they simply want to offer you something that is a fraction of what was actually done. Understanding that God is not necessarily taking plea deals, even though he is willing to offer grace. The problem that Judah is running into here is they are not going to be able to overwhelm God's memory to the point where he is going to forget the things that they have been doing. And they have also run out of favor or grace, as God is making it very clear in this chapter. A chapter once again reminding us of David's Psalm 32 wisdom, understanding his call to seek God at a time when he can actually be found. Judah has waited to a point where they have run out of favor, bringing back to mind a somewhat familiar theme, and that being gaslighting, understanding that no matter how much they could bury Jeremiah in what and why questions that might have bought them some time, those questions were never going to render them innocent, understanding that God was still going to hold them accountable. Understanding even more that no matter how much they were able to shift the blame, they were never going to be able to shift God's standards. A truth that Christ and his apostles emphasized still matters for his believers, even to this day.